Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State, it's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
Knock us down. We're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right, and on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
There's the snap. Blitz comes. Mayfield back, loads, throws. Picked up by the Lions. Intercepted by the Lions. Intercepted by the Lions. Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes! Yes. Derek Barnes! Oh, baby, 1:33 to go. The Lions are going to San Francisco. Yes. Derek Barnes with the interception. Oh, baby, stand up, Ford Field. Look at this. Woo! Look at this. First career interception for Derek Barnes, and how big is that?
Yes, man, yes.
Welcome, everyone, to Reckless Speculation. And our boy Tom here was at that game. Let's dive right into it, man. What was that atmosphere like? Seeing just the game in general and then that play in particular at the end.
Well, I'll start by saying the atmosphere for the wild card against the Rams was like nothing I'd ever been a part of or witnessed in my entire life. The crowd was so insane. I mean, from first snap to last snap, it was unbelievable. And the proverbial monkey off every Detroit Lions back, 32 years of no playoff wins came off, and it felt so good. Lots of emotions. So heading into last week's game, I was concerned. The vibe pregame, it wasn't like the week prior, partly because it was a 3:00 kickoff. The week prior was 8:15. So there was a lot more time to get sauced up down there. But Mike Phillips, who's a world-renowned saxophone player, did the national anthem. And let's just say from that moment on, Ford Field's roof was blown off. It was just incredible. The stadium was louder, and the decibel levels were 1 decibel higher than the week before, which became the 3rd loudest NFL football game in history. I think it was 134 decibels, just a couple decibels behind it. Arrowhead and Lumen Field for Seattle. So it's pretty dang good company. So it was loud. There was a guy in front of us who was actually plugging his ears. It was so loud. It was awesome. But people hugging, high-fiving when they took that final knee and know that they were heading back to the NFC Championship game. I was talking to a good friend today, and the comment got brought up about, you could have sold your tickets and paid for next year. And my comment to him was, you can't put a price tag on what we just felt, the experience we just had. Seeing all those fans outside of Ford Field after the game, walking down Woodward, just people, you would have thought they won the Super Bowl. Atmosphere was it was incredible. So for that to be the first time in 32 years, I don't think there was any way that you could sell your tickets. I mean, maybe next year or the year after that, after they've done it, it's not such a big deal. maybe, but for what we got to experience on Sunday, there's no price tag. There's just isn't. It's memories that we'll always have. It's just, and hugging with strangers. We had a row behind us. These guys were all from New York, and they live here. And the one guy said he met his wife and he moved here 30 years ago. And to quote this guy, I'm a diehard. I'm a diehard. I love this team. I love this city. So to see people from outside of Detroit being a part of it and just having so much love and drive to see this team do well, it's awesome. It's officially become America's team. No more Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry. New dog in town, that's for sure.
I would agree with that statement. And, as a fan for that long with a team with a drought that big, I would think the hunger for a playoff win and to be in that atmosphere, to be in that game, to be a fan. If you're a true fan, there's no way you're selling your ticket. I don't see it at all. No amount of money. So I'm happy for you, bud. That looked awesome. You sent us some pictures. How nervous were you coming into? I think if I'm right, I think you were more nervous maybe for the Rams versus the Rams than you were the Bucs. But go ahead and break that down. What was your excitement, nervous level? What were you confident? Once you beat the Rams, playing the Bucs. Take us through that.
I'll definitely say, leading into the game, the nervous level, the anxiety was definitely higher against the Rams because Stafford's he's still a gunslinger, and with Puka and with Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams, that's a really solid offensive attack, and it worried me. Were the emotions going to work in his favor or against him? What a hell of a game that Stafford had. So the nerve level on that was pretty high. My stomach was in knots in the fourth quarter. But then you fast forward to this past weekend, I felt pretty confident going in. Obviously, it's Baker Mayfield. You know his track record. He has good games and then he has bad games. And I felt like maybe he's due for a bad game because he played really well against the Eagles. He's played really well down the stretch, with the exception of Week 18 where they only beat Carolina 9-0. So I definitely had a lot of confidence. I felt the crowd was going to be a major factor. But to my chagrin, not one false start penalty for Tampa. They were in this game right off the rip. And, toward the end of the third quarter, it's 10-10. I'm getting worried. Now I'm worried because you're one turnover away from this game flipping. And fortunately, Detroit got a hell of a run by Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just been outstanding as the season's gone on. He absolutely punked Antoine Winfield Jr., and I think he got the scepter from NFL Network, Kyle, the guy from Good Morning Football. But
MTV, real world guy.
Then the man right here, Amon-Ra St. Brown, gets the fade to put him up by 2 touchdowns. So it eased my nerves, but then the Swiss cheese secondary of the Lions came showing themselves, and Baker ran right down the field, which caused Todd Bowles to make his first of 2 bonehead decisions, going for 2 in that play, which would have, if he would have kicked the field goal, it would have been a 7-point game. But instead it was an 8. And then at the end, when they took the knee Detroit took the knee pretty quick. So if they could have called the timeout,
39 seconds left.
All indications were, and I respect Todd Bowles with this comment. You don't get too many coaches that just tell it like it is. He goes, they would just kick the field goal and the game was over, So I can respect that. But, from a competitive standpoint, if there's you say there's a chance, you
Right.
call that timeout. But yeah, there was about 10 minutes in that game where I was worried, and
Yeah.
you could feel momentum starting to shift a little bit, but that crowd stayed with it. And then once they put Eminem on the scoreboard, or literally, he was only on the scoreboard. I couldn't even get my phone out in time to take a shot. That was it.
That's on purpose, right? Like,
oh yeah, it was
the only time he
Get
comes
everybody
out
fired
the
up.
Lions.
Yeah.
But he'll say, like, one time at the end of the game, don't use me. You know, he's all about exploitation. So,
Yep.
But Tom, as real quick, as a NFL fan, it translated. The noise translated. It definitely did. But I know
I watched the replay last night on NFL Network, and you could hear Mike Tirico and Collinsworth literally have to speak up into their microphone, and it was just a constant. And it was funny, you know, it's always fun to go back and watch games that you attended, because you remember these key moments. And there was some key moments I remembered, and then to see it happen, it was awesome. But yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what it would have been like to have an NFC Championship game here. It would have been unbelievable. But I'll take a trip to San Francisco. I will not complain. I think it's set up exactly the way it should be. So based on how the season progressed, but it's an experience I will never forget. Had to be a part of, and I thank my better half for pushing us to get season tickets this year, because if not, we would have never been able to experience that. So I'm very thankful.
Hey, real quick before I get into what I think you're going to ask me, playoff lore is all about magic and the unexpected. Romo fumbling the snap, the immaculate reception, which touched the fucking ground as a Raider fan. You know, the tuck rule, which ripped off Raider fan because that was a fucking fumble and Brady said it. The Heidi game, you know, the holy roller. These things happen, and you have to give yourself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Take every snap you can. You don't know if Ragnow is who's an amazing center, it just otherworldly, you know, sneezes and the crowd going nuts and he takes his eye or mind off for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
You give your team
he was playing with a sprained knee and ankle, and he missed like 2 plays. That was it. And you mentioned the Heidi game, and the ironic part of this game was the local NBC affiliate here dropped the game, like unexpectedly. The picture went dark, so a lot of people had to scramble to Peacock to watch that game. So there was a period where local coverage it wasn't on. I don't know for how long, but I remember getting some texts and tweets that said, "Where'd the game go? Does anybody else lose the signal?" So and then I heard that people had to rush to Peacock to pick it up. So it probably blew up from, you know, the almost 50 million people that tuned in to watch that game. It was awesome, just awesome.
Dude, that's the stuff that gets people murdered. And I'm not just saying that about Detroit, a divisional playoff game.
Yeah, you can't have that.
You can't.
It's ridiculous. Welcome, Raj. As you know, everybody knows Raj here. Slightly late, but on time.
IST, Indian Standard Time. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, dude.
That's my shtick, dude. Like a guy with an eye patch.
Well, we had you know, a lot to cover with Tom to get started, so it's all good. But as we mentioned this, you know, earlier this year about the Lions and their potential and what we all thought. And did you ever think, Raj, that you would see a run like this for their first playoff win in 32 years and their second playoff win in 32 years, and now they're in the championship game? I mean, how far can this thing go, do you think?
I mean, it can go to the end with what they produce on the field and what they have, you know, dating back and just quickly, if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they became the New England Patriots organizationally, and I'm not putting Detroit there yet. What I'm saying is, in the draft, Kansas City since 2017, I believe, when they got Chris Jones, has selected themselves and developed gems, 16 contributors, 11 starters, I believe, all over the football. They talent eval, they develop these players, they stay within. They may sign a free agent like Jawan Taylor from Jacksonville, but that's just to protect their biggest asset in Mahomes. Detroit, with their former GM, Bob Quinn, started out just like, Pete Carroll did at USC. I have to go. That's all I got. Alabama, Harbaugh, Michigan, the 90s Dallas Cowboys. They started in the trenches. And it goes back to like 2016 when they got starting left tackle Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow from? Where's
the
Graham
University of Michigan.
The national champion University of Michigan.
And Decker's from the school down south. Yep.
Tosu. Yeah, Tosu. And they got Ashawn Robinson, who ironically enough won a championship with the Rams. But and Quinn had too many misses, especially at skill.
He also drafted Frank Ragnow, so I mean,
he did draft
he
Ragnow.
deserves a little bit of credit for
a bit of credit, but
this team.
The misses were far. I mean, in the trenches they were big, and that's 3 of the 5 offensive line, and that's the most consistent offensive line over the last 3 years since they drafted Penei Sewell, who I wanted so badly at USC when I went to Oregon. We knew he was a potential Hall of Famer. He was that good. But anyways, in 21, Brad Holmes came on board, and so did Dan Campbell. And since then, in 2021 and 2023, their talent evaluation, they've gotten 9 starters. And they built, in addition to the trade, but they built those trenches, and they went after speed, and more speed. On the outside, they went strength with consistency. They found gems. Obviously, the most notable example is my favorite Detroit Lion ever, and that's number 14 for Detroit, former USC Trojan, Orange County kid, Amon-Ra St. Brown, whose dad was a Mr. Olympian and started a protein company. So that should tell you something. How he fell to the 4th round, I'll never know. Ironically, the following year, the 49ers drafted Talanoa Hufanga, who was an all-pro in the 5th round from USC, but he ain't playing. He's out. But 16 receivers drafted ahead of Amon-Ra, and that pissed him off. But anyways, Gibbs, Laporta, Brian Branch, they're finding these dudes. Obviously, with Detroit, the issue is going to be their pass defense. Their rush defense is actually quite good. I believe it's PFF had it 6th in the NFL. But to answer your question in a Raj roundabout way, I did see it coming. I think a lot of us were on the Lions coming into this year. And then when you saw, and I drafted Laporta late, thankfully, then when you saw, what Gardner Johnson and Branch and what they were bringing on the back end and making up for
Branch was all over the field last week.
Everywhere. Just an amazing draft pick and kid, making up for guys like Akuda, who they got rid of. But again, Gibbs, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Josh Reynolds was a great pickup from the Rams. And then adding Laporta, who adds a dimension that Hawkinson didn't. And he had the foresight to make these deals. And at the time, and again, I think Mr. Miyagi is their freaking medical trainer, because I don't know how these guys come back. I thought Laporta was done.
Look at you mentioned Brad Holmes, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's your team, bro.
You look at, where did he come from? The Rams.
Yes, that's right.
He was he was head of college scouting for the Los Angeles Rams. And you see what happened with them. And for him to come to this team, he took so much heat. This team took so much heat after this past year's draft. What are they doing? I just watched a video, and they were talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. They're like, what a dumb pick. Like, you don't draft a running back in the 1st round. Where would this team be without Jahmyr Gibbs right now? I mean, and then you look at Jack Campbell, who went 2nd. and then you get Laporta and then Brian Branch in the second round. It's just one thing that deters Brad Holmes from all the rest of the GMs that have been in this town. Former regimes, we'll just leave it at that, would draft the name. We got to have the name. This regime drafts the need. What the all grit, that means who fits what we're doing. I don't care what his draft grade was. I don't care what Mel Kiper says. Does he have it? Does he have grit? We want him. And all four of those picks that they got were great guys, were no names. They were just guys that they knew they could plug in and play. And all four of them are huge contributors. And even their fifth round offensive lineman out of William and Mary, he's going to be plugged in this week with Jonah Jackson being out. So these guys are making contributions, and they wouldn't be where they're at today if not for the 2023 draft picks.
And of course, getting Hutchinson was just sort of like the stars aligning, right?
Right.
And solved like 40 different problems, including Mojo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and look, every team has dudes, right? Every team drafts good players, and they've got dudes. But it's what you can do with those guys and what kind of culture you can build and get everyone to buy into. And obviously, just watching Dan Campbell and some of his speeches and just what he's built there, like this dude, everyone's buying in, and it's showing. They're producing on the field. He's getting the best out of his players. I agree. I think the Lions can go all the way. They've got the quality in the coaching, and they got the quality in the players. So anxious to see. One more question, both of you, real quick. Did the Lions win the trade with the Rams? Raj?
Not yet, because they've got a Super Bowl championship and Detroit doesn't. But, Tom will know exactly what players they turn that into. They got a first in 22, a first last year, and a third last year. And I don't want to steal Tom's thunder, but I guess that would be Campbell, and then probably Hooker, Martin, one of those guys.
Gibbs and Laporta are part of that trade.
Oh, that was Gibbs' pick? Oh, yeah, the Rams sucked last year.
Yep.
Well, then, damn. Look where they are now. It's kind of simplistic to say Stafford got a ring and that was meant to be. So maybe it's both.
You posed this question Monday, and this has been a head scratcher because, like Raj said, LA wanted a Super Bowl and they got it. They gave up a lot of draft picks, but as you can see, they've got a hell of a front office that can talent evaluate, and they seem to reload with a lot of late round picks. They gave up a lot of their early round picks, but they've been able to make do with a lot of good talent late rounds. But as far as the pathway to the future goes, you were given basically the quarterback was the throw-in essentially. We didn't want him when he was here. Just you take him, and in 3 years he went from the dumpster to he's the king of Detroit, and they're chanting his name in Ford Field, and he hears that, and he's playing at a high level. He's not sexy. He doesn't run around like these running quarterbacks, but he's smart and he's efficient and he's a leader. But then on the flip side, you look at the future with Laporta, with Campbell, with Gibbs. They have set themselves up for the next few years with this pick. So in some ways, the Rams won it because they got a Super Bowl out of it. And in other ways, the Lions won it because it set themselves up for success. And I think future success in a form of free agents that are going to want to come to Detroit to play for Dan Campbell, not only because he is just an expert motivator, but two, that's a team that is young, is aggressive, and has all indications they're going to win for the next few years. So they have the pieces in place So why wouldn't a free agent want to say, hey, I want to go play in Detroit? And then after watching that atmosphere at Ford Field, there isn't a better home field around in the NFL. So I think it's right now it's TBD. Because can the Lions win a Super Bowl this year? Maybe. Can they win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years? Sure, they should.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then I think maybe the Lions would win. So
They will be hosting one. You said about that, and the only issue would be the older front offensive line. But real quick, Goff is Detroit, man. He's the underdog. He doesn't bark. He just proves it. He is Detroit. He was something everybody gave up on. And look at him now.
Well, I think this was the most, looking back and where we are right now, this was the most equal trade for both parties that I can remember in the longest time. Because what did the Rams do at this time? They sold the farm to get a Super Bowl. And what happened? They won a Super Bowl. They got what they wanted. Who cares for the next 5 years? They can go into rebuild mode. They can do whatever. They just won a Super Bowl. But this also gave Detroit the pieces to build towards this 32-year drought to where they're at now and stack on top of that. Now, who's to say within 3 years Detroit's not in that position to where they're missing one key piece. They sell their draft picks to win a Super Bowl and comes right back to them. So I think this was one of the most fair trades looking back now. When everyone thought the Rams were crazy, they're selling the farm until they won the Super Bowl. This whole mentality in the NFL is trying to rebuild and restack, but no one ever really went out and tried to win until the Rams, which we saw. So
they were aggressive. They were
aggressive, and they knew they were missing just a couple key pieces. And
maybe a little collusion in Cabo, we'll call it. Maybe we can make that collusion in Cabo. Just so happened that Stafford and McVay were in Cabo at the same time, tipping back.
Could have been. But again, like I said, I think it was great.
Better back-to-back fifth-round picks than Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, because that's what the Rams did. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Well, again, some other talent evaluation going on there. It's pretty damn impressive. But
he doesn't get hurt. That's a different game.
Let's move on. Let's go. Let's do a little division round takeaways here. We'll start with the second game that we watched, which KC at Buffalo, big night game. Buffalo just can't seem to get off this hump here against KC. Everyone, they were favored, 3 point, 2.5, I think it got to, in Buffalo. No excuses. Kansas City looks off this year. Buffalo was the hot team coming in. I mean, the last 3-4 weeks, they were just dominating. Raj, has Buffalo reached their ceiling here? I mean, can they not get over that hump with KC? Can they not beat Patrick Mahomes?
No, but they obviously need to make a few changes, and one of them is the idiot at the top of the charts, and that's Sean McDermott. I think that's pretty clear. If anybody Googles Sean McDermott, questionable decisions, just look and see what you find out. But no, when it comes to the Bills, I'm not sure their free agent status. I do think chemistry was an issue. Guys like Diggs and whatnot, but they've managed to find other guys like Raymond and Shakir. And, the offensive line is good. If you look at them statistically, everything is there really. There's only one or two things that they need help with. And that can be fixed. And I had all of my rankings memorized, but I just blanked. But short answer, really, as long as you have Josh Allen and you can play in freaking that place, then and Vegas doesn't move your games, you're fine. I mean, their secondary's amazing. They were top 3 or 4 coverage team with those 2 safeties back there. The pieces are in place. They've just, it's got to come together. They got new linebackers, but no, they're not done yet, but they need a new coach.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And that's the thing. A lot of people were trying to throw Allen under the bus a little bit. Like he can't. He played a phenomenal game. You cannot put that game on his shoulders by any means. Same, 2 years ago when they lost in overtime. That was just a coin flip. That's the only thing they lost.
Touch the ball.
Didn't get a chance to touch it. So, Tom, looking back.
I was just going to say real quick, I found it. The run defense for Buffalo is 29th in the NFL. PFF rated their tackling as 28th.
That's what I was about to get into. Like, looking back at this game, it seemed to be the defensive play calling and decisions. I get Patrick Mahomes is a wizard, but it seemed they couldn't stop the run when they needed to, and then they couldn't find Kelsey also, which is a big red flag going on the other side. What was your breakdown of their kind of debacle of the fourth quarter there?
I think kind of like Detroit when it got real close, Detroit didn't break, whereas Buffalo, and let's not forget Buffalo's been depleted with injuries, especially in their secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So they were missing key pieces of that team. So when you're missing that, and you have a team, a coach, a quarterback who is built for January, who just does it. They just find a way, no matter what their record said, no matter how the season has been for them, they just know what buttons to push. So the window for success for Buffalo was very small, and they didn't have much room for error. And so when you look at the fake punt in their own territory, there's a huge problem. There's the big problem. And then you look at Josh Allen, who puts an absolute dime right in Steph Diggs' hands.
Yep.
And he drops it.
Yep.
And then you have the kicker, who up until last week, Tyler Bass, has been a top 5 kicker in the NFL, maybe even higher. Absolute Scott Norwood, the kick. So you had 3 instances in that fourth quarter where you made huge blunders.
Huge turn of events.
And when you're facing a team that's experienced, that's battle-tested, and has proven they can win on the road, you can't give them those opportunities because they'll punch you in the mouth. And frankly, I heard a quote coming home that Pacheco runs like he's mad at the ground. And he does. I mean, he's an old school type Roger Craig. I'm showing my age and Roger's age type runner. He's just, he goes at it. And you have the fear of Kelsey. No matter what, you have the fear of Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
And Rice has come through. So I think they were more focused on Mahomes throwing the ball. Sure. And the run game just kind of ate them alive. So when you're making those mistakes and your window is very small to make those mistakes, you're not going to overcome. And
could have got away maybe with one of those, maybe 2.
But and then here's another thing. You have 2 timeouts, and you have, what is there, a minute and change? They're going to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
First down, they give up 9 yards. Like, come on.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Just I think they were all checked out at that point after the missed field goal. So it's unfortunate. I agree McDermott has to go, not only for the fact that he's plateaued as a team, but for his ridiculous comments he made about a month ago. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's the main thing, but we're not going to.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. He's kind of taking them as far as he can. So,
but real quick, the play calling. They had first and 10 at the Kansas City 27.
Mm-hmm.
1 yard run, 2-minute warning. There's 2:42 left from right there. And they got too cute. 2 incomplete passes. Yep. Allen put it on him. And then you got Bass kicking it probably from the wrong hash mark. You just got to take what they give you and get them in position.
Mm-hmm.
They got greedy.
Yeah. I agree. That, again, falls back to play calling and head coach upper chain management there. So Mahomes has made it to the AFC Championship every year that he's been a starter.
That's unbelievable.
How impressive is that? I mean, that's just insane, right? He's also, prior to this game, he is 8-1 as a road dog.
And one. He had a push.
I said 8-1. Yes, sorry. Now he's 9-1. Like coming in, and we'll get ahead to the next game, but he's a road dog again. Like I took the Chiefs. I bet heavy on them and the over. I didn't think with those stats, I'm not betting against Mahomes until he proves me wrong.
It's tough.
But it's a pretty impressive stat.
And that's ATS, but like even more so as just straight under, like winning or losing, he's 8-3. And the great players step up. The whole world's watching Kelsey, and he's making heart things and whatnot. And what does he do? He's, has 2 TDs. That's what they do. They relish that.
Yeah. I mean, having Kelsey it really reminds me of a lot of Brady and Gronk for a little bit, because you look at Brady and what he did, how he elevated other wide receivers around him that were nobodies, no names. Belichick played the money ball game, as we all know. You've got some misfit wide receivers out there on the Chiefs, and, Rice is showing a lot of potential, but these guys, I mean, nobody wanted them. They're, Valdez-Scantley's a journeyman.
He was a bum in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you look at what Mahomes does to these guys and elevates them. But I think I think having that safety blanket in, like,
when in
Brady
doubt,
had Gronk, and now he's got Kelsey. When in doubt, because he doesn't even run routes. Like, he just runs around the field and finds.
He's a zone killer.
Right. Yeah.
He just finds the pocket, and he wears his yellow shoes.
Yep.
And his yellow gloves. So it picks it up. So he knows where he's at all times.
Right. So that to me, I just kind of really noticed that, the last couple of years, that it is very, very similar, and it's been successful. I mean, it's pretty incredible to see. But do you guys think Buffalo's going to make a coaching change? Raj, we'll go to you first.
Fucking hope so.
With this coaching carousel going around, I mean, are they too late to the party to do it this year?
Great point. I really thought they'd be more active. I mean, if the Milwaukee Bucks are firing championship coaches and dudes that are 30-13,
unbelievable.
Buffalo should be sick of being a bridesmaid and to a bridesmaid. And I don't know why he still has a job, especially after the fake punt and what he said earlier in the year. And for those who don't know, he talked about team orchestrating things together. And there was an analogy to the terrorist attack and the terrorists themselves. So that's all I'll say about that, which is
you can Google it and look it up. It's just asinine.
Yeah. It's just absolutely asinine. I mean, right then I would have fired his ass. But
I think there's a guy out there that exemplifies what Buffalo is. He's proven to win in this league and was unjustly just fired from Brandon, your Tennessee Titans. I think Mike Vrabel is probably as good, if not the best candidate that could go into Buffalo and turn that team around. He's Midwest guy. He's cold weather guy. He's AFC East guy, albeit he was with the Patriots, the rival, but nonetheless,
athletic QB.
He is a guy that he's a no nonsense. Hey, you know what? He's a Dan Campbell type guy.
Yeah,
I think he bleeds. I think he just exemplifies what Buffalo, New York is all about. He would understand it. He knows what it's about to play there. I think he's available. To me, that's a no no-brainer. Whether they pull the trigger or not, I don't know. I think it's in their best interest that, Mike Vrabel be the next coach of the Buffalo Bills. So,
Brandon, why haven't we heard more of Vrabel to this point? Because he's a phenomenal coach.
I don't know. There's been a couple ex-players coming out talking about Vrabel. I think Wesley Woodyard was one of them that spoke today or yesterday, possibly. Just some of his antics behind the scenes that goes on. He's hard-nosed, doesn't let kids on the field, alienates players.
Pooping with the door open at draft night.
Is it, who knows what, but majority of the players that have played for him have loved him and Woodyard, I don't know what happened there. Maybe he got pissed because he got benched and traded or released, whatever. I don't know. But you're going to have two sides to every story. There's going to be people that love you and people that hate you. It's just a part of the business. But he's a great coach. And Tom, you bring up a great point. I think Buffalo would be a really good landing spot for him.
Yep.
They're prepared to win a Super Bowl. They're so close every year. I think he could get them over that hump. He's beat Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. When he had no business beating Patrick.
When he had no business beating Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, snow game, like he's done all the things. So
I think you fucking nailed it right there. As soon as you said that, I was like, gee, why haven't I thought of that?
Yeah, you killed it. No, so that's awesome. And one more quick thing before we go through the coaching carousel. This fumbling into the end zone, this has perplexed everyone for quite some time. Just the whole. All right. First off, you can catch a ball or you can run a ball in, right? And you can reach across the end zone. And if somebody smacks it out of your hand and you fumble midair, the ball crosses the plane. That's a touchdown. Then when you catch the ball, you clearly have possession. You roll over, the ball hits the ground. It's an incomplete pass. The damn ball crossed the end zone. That should have been a touchdown. Now you fumble it into the end zone, and instead of being out on the one where you're lined up on the one, because you can't advance a fumble, right? But
Unless
you can
you're the
advance it in
fumbler.
the end zone. Unless you're the fumbler, you can advance it in the end zone and turn the ball over as a touchback. What the hell's going on with this rule?
Raj, I'll let you start that one.
As a Raider fan, Derek Carr did it 2 or 3 times. I think if you're fucking dumb enough to stick out your hand with one hand with a football, with 11 dudes being right there trying to smack it out, then yeah, that's a legit rule. But I didn't hear your second example. I'm all about. I know what you're saying. If it fumbles and goes out at the one. I was at the Bush Push game in 2005 when USC beat Notre Dame, and Matt Leinart fumbled. And fortunately enough, the ball went out right before the goal line. Another 6 inches and the game's over. Mm-hmm. And that's what your point is. But, I guess the analogous thing that you'd put the ball at the one would be a pass interference in the end zone, like you alluded to. I don't have a problem with the rule at all. I really don't. I think the NFL is all about ball security, whatever that may be, and the right to possess the ball. And if you do that and you're that dumb, then you don't have the right to possess the ball. But I couldn't give you a straight up, definitive black letter law answer. I couldn't. It's a great question.
Well, real quick, here's my point on it. This is one of the few rules that is definitive. It is in the NFL amongst so many controversial rules that they have and judgment calls that they have. This is a definitive rule that everyone knows. So I have zero problem with it when you can clearly pick out what that rule is and if that happened or not during a play. I'm okay with that because everyone knows that rule. Everyone plays by that same rule. I get a little bit more pissed off about the judgment calls, or is it a catch, not a catch? Did he take a step forward? Is that an athletic move? Like all that bullshit. That's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
definitive rules are fine because everyone knows them and everyone has to play by them. So that's my take. Tom, sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you mentioned, you got the ball, it crosses the
Goal line.
the goal line. Yeah, I don't know why I was drawing a blank there. It's a touchdown. You fumble it before you get to the line. It goes out of bounds. It's a touchback. The difference is your hands are on the ball with the one, and you didn't cross on the other run. To break the plane is what I was trying to say. Long day. So I think that is the difference. And I agree with you when it comes to catch, one step, two step. All right. Define a football move.
Right.
Nobody seems to know what the hell a football move is. And every expert that they bring on to try and explain, well, it's, you made it a turn, or you tucked the ball, or, it's just,
It's all subjective.
Exactly. So that is always, it's based upon, what the official sees in that moment. But I won't say anything bad about the officials because my good buddy will probably let me know about it tomorrow. But as far as the fumbling out of bounds, that's the risk you take when you get close to that goal line and you want to stretch it out, or if you're holding the ball like a loaf of bread and it gets punched out. That's the risk you take of it crossing that line just on that right side of the pylon. It's a game of inches, and essentially, and you just have to protect the ball. And that's the difference between the good teams and the bad teams. Fortunately for Kansas City this past week, they were able to battle back from a fumble at the one that barely just happened to bounce to the right side of that pylon and go out of bounds. So, but usually most teams, that's kind of a momentum killer, a drive killer, and it takes their kind of wind out of their sails. But it didn't for Kansas City, thanks to some questionable decisions by the Bills. But anyways,
Yeah.
Speaking of questionable, you guys just talked about it briefly. The on-field ruling for reversal and the fact that it has to be, quote, indisputable video evidence determined by 2 or 3 people is subjective, like you said. Don't get me started on that. Like, it's just so fucking stupid.
Yep.
It's too much power to manipulate a game that way. It's way too much, and they've got to do somehow, and I don't know what the answer is. I'm not claiming I do, but they've somehow got to do a better job, because when you start getting into these crunch time games and these playoff games where Super Bowls, they are few and far between for a lot of teams. There's not a whole lot of, Kansas Cities and New England Patriots out there that just win and Steelers, that win just multiple Super Bowls. So when you get that opportunity to have a game go out of your favor because of a subjective call like that, it's just, they've got to do something a little better. And I don't know what the answer is, but
real quick, and I'll go back to the Lions game, and you talk about having too much power. There was a call in the play in the fourth quarter where Otten goes out, cuts in, and Branches, or actually it was Melifonwu, jumped and covered him. Incomplete pass. 5 seconds go by. Here comes the flag from the side judge, who's 25 yards in front of the play. So, and here it comes. And they huddle for 3 minutes. Oh, holding number 6 defense, 5 yards automatic. How does a guy who's 25 yards in front of the play throw a holding call? What it is, they throw the flag, they see it on the scoreboard, and they're like, oh shit. That wasn't an interference call. Oh, we're going to give them a hold. It's just, I've seen a lot of flags thrown and a lot of huddling. Okay. Number one, throw the flag when it happens. And number two, if you see something, you throw the flag. What are we talking about here? What are we questioning? And why are we picking them up at the rate we're picking them up? So I think as a whole, officiating has been very questionable. And although I do like the fact that they have an escalated review process where basically New York says, well, it's quick. So that's changed. But yeah, I mean, I think the officials have way too much power to dictate, the result of the games.
I agree with that too. That's a great point on the delayed flags. There's way too many of those lately. The last couple of years. It almost seems as if the refs are looking off and players are just, lobbying for a flag or waiting for a flag, and then all of a sudden, there's a flag thrown. Now, let's be honest. You could call. There's so many penalties on every play of every NFL game, right? Like you can call holding every play. Like there's always pass interference. Like you know what I mean? Yep. But it's the consistency of their calling and the establishment of what they're going to allow versus what they're not, and then keeping that consistency throughout the game and not waiting till the end and being like, oh, we've let them do this all. We've let them push and grab 7-8 yards off the ball all game, and then all of a sudden, when it matters, we're going to flag.
Yep,
like that's complete bullshit.
Yep,
so
right.
refs need to be checked for that.
Yep.
Hey, real quick, was it better when the ref? Was it easier to accept, like, oh well, that's how it goes when the ref just fucked up on the field and you moved on?
No, I mean, I don't think. I think everyone was still angry at that point. I think all this does is amplify the anger because now you get time to look at the replays and see it, and then the refs also have to. Now, the refs have corrected a lot of plays because of replay and because it's so evident on slow-mo and replay now. So it forces their hand in a lot of situations. But they still make shitty calls and they, undisputable evidence to turn all that bullshit. So whatever. Depends on what camera angle you want to show.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyway, moving on. All right, let's do a little quick. I'm going to try and keep this right at an hour. We got about 7 minutes left here. We'll do real quick. What do you think? Good hire, bad hire on the coaching carousel here. We'll start with you, Raj, with the Raiders. They decided to keep Antonio Pierce head coach. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think?
I love it. They were 5-4 down the stretch. They've never played harder. You get him at a deal. He's got a great relationship. The players play for him. And
Max Crosby.
Yeah. I mean, they all love him. So they had Rich Bisaccia 2 years ago. They got into the playoffs. I went to Cincinnati, froze my ass off in the divisional game. They barely lost. And they fired Bisaccia for Lloyd Christmas fired Bisaccia for Josh McDaniel. And there you go. So
no, I agree. Great hire there. Let's go to you, Tom. My Titans, Brian Callahan. What do you think on that? Taking the Burrow's boy from him.
I am not always the biggest fan of coordinator hires. Yes, he's been the OC for Cincinnati. But it doesn't, I mean, the aforementioned Josh McDaniels, he's had 2 goes at it and it just hasn't worked. I think this is a very low frill hire for Tennessee. Was it a matter of they couldn't get the big name? Are they reaching here? I'm not sure. But I can see it as an opportunity he's worked with some pretty decent quarterbacks. So is this a Will Levis amplified hire for Tennessee? I don't know. I don't think it's going to move the needle much down there. And I'm sure the fan base, which you're familiar with, isn't overly impressed with it. But I mean, it's kind of a ho-hum deal. Quiet, safe, maybe is the right word. And if they lose in a year or two, they can cut waste and they'll move on to another coordinator job.
Yeah, this real quick, I'll give my 2 cents. This was a rush thought a rushed hire. They announced that we're going to have a coach by such and such date already. All the, like, you didn't even properly interview all the candidates that you wanted to. Half of them were Zoom calls and, not in person. So I don't know. I don't like the hire personally. I think it was rushed. Nothing against Callahan. Maybe he's going to be great. Who knows? But I think it was a rushed hire. I think the firing of Vrabel and all that whole deal was a big rushed move for someone that doesn't really know what they're doing, controlling the team. So I'll leave it at that. Raj, Dallas, they're keeping McCarthy. What is going on there? I mean, they had all the pieces. Dak is wishy-washy, obviously, but everything else is clicked this year. McCarthy, we thought he was a for sure fire. How is he still here?
I have no idea. Jerry likes his guys and keeps his guys. This is a man with an 11-11 playoff record, but that's clearly underachieved. No Super Bowl appearances, but just going back, he was the 49ers coach. He took over when Tim Rattay was the quarterback and Brandon Lloyd had 700 yards. Somehow he got the Green Bay job and kind of rode some coattails there, in my opinion, which got him this job. We all know dog life when you're single dad. So we fucking totally get that. And that dog is rad. I want him to bark more. He agrees with me. So thanks, dog. But no, I mean, I was just baffled. I mean, they haven't improved under him. What player development? What happened to that? And just because he got one Super Bowl championship, he's still got a job. And Jerry loves tradition and guys that have been there before and this and that. But he kept Jason Garrett for way too long.
Oh yeah.
This is just insane to me. I mean, they were punchless. Embarrassing end.
Until Jerry steps down and relinquishes his control, there's what coach wants to go there and just
he wants obedience. He wants obedience.
Yeah,
and Garrett is obedient. McCarthy's obedient. I think a lot of these new coaches that, even Belichick was rumored to go there. Belichick's not going to be obedient. And I think that's why McCarthy is still the guy. Plus, they got another year with Dak. And I think that's something too.
Both take the same bus out when they leave next year.
There we go.
He fired 6 coaches coming into this year. So those were the scapegoats. So I would think this would be his last chance with those guys. Maybe he got a 1-year reprieve and Jerry doesn't see a guy out there and he doesn't want to spend the money for somebody like the next two guys we talked about.
And real quick, I don't know if you guys heard or read about a lot of the family internal drama going on with Dallas and some of the relatives of the players talking about Dak and throwing him under the bus. And, on Twitter, there was a lot of uproar going on internally there. So that's another thing to look out for. Just seems like a duck on water, They look fine in the public eye, but there's a lot of shit going on. But all right. And then finally, let's talk about Tom's boy Harbaugh. It was a question where he was going to land, but breaking news earlier this evening before we started, he is now going to be the Los Angeles Chargers head coach. What do you think, Tom? Bye-bye. C'est la vie.
I'm going to give the man his credit. I'm going to give the man his credit. He put Michigan back on the map. He did a lot of good things here. But every year, it was the same old, same old. Is Jim going to flirt with the NFL? Will Jim be here next year? Pulling an Aaron Rodgers, in a sense, holding the university hostage. And our good buddy JP said it the same thing. He's the biggest Michigan fan that I know. He said, good riddance. I'm tired of this stuff every year. I want consistency. You don't get that with him. And when you start peeling back the onion and realize, did he really contribute to the last few years of this team? Or did he just bring in the right coaches, the right assistants? Sharon Moore, Mike McDonald 2 years ago, Jesse Minter the past 2 seasons, Mike Hart. You brought in a lot of guys that were great motivators, great coaches, turns 3 stars into 5 stars. So I think that's where Michigan still is in, the driver's seat, we'll say, as long as they retain Sharon Moore, and all the indications are he will be named the head coach. There has to be, I read somewhere, there has to be a minimum of 7 days go by before they can announce the coach. I don't understand that, but all indications are it's going to be more. So, and some recruits have already said that they're not going anywhere. But I think a real Michigan fan will tell you, yeah, this whole every offseason, it's the same old, same old. It's been that way for 5 years. And you get kind of tired of it. And they get a national championship, first time since 1948, I believe it was, outright, set them out on top. I think it's the right time. I think it's a good fit for Harbaugh going to, I almost said San Diego, going to LA, even though they don't have a fan base. But he's got the piece there that he can work with in Justin Herbert. I think Jesse Minter comes with him, which will hurt Michigan, which look at what Mike McDonald did with the Ravens. In 2 years, he's developed the best defense in the NFL. He should get a coaching job somewhere. So I think the Chargers are in really good shape right now. I think it's a good landing spot for Harbaugh's family. They're both fans of California, so I think they'll do well out there. And you know what? Great for Jim. He did great things here, representing the university, but I think it's time. And I think a real Michigan fan would agree with me on that one. And it's just I want consistency. And I think Sharon Moore's 35 years old. He's a perfect fit for this school, and he's proven he can win the big game. So I think it's a win-win for both situations.
Respectfully, though, that sounds like a to me, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, like I said, but a jilted rationalization in some respects. Countless credit was given to Harbaugh. We don't know exactly what effect he had on that team and that program and his philosophy. All I know is he wins everywhere. You saw people with so much love for him, Sharon Moore and whatnot.
Oh, sure.
It sucks that he's leaving. I don't know the ramifications for Michigan with the NCAA. It kind of feels like he's bailing out, and maybe some people are pissed. But, he's 5th in NFL league history in winning percentage at .695. He won in college as well, obviously. He revitalized that program. He got a bunch of those kids starting with the line. He does have an aura about him when it comes to consistency. I mean, the only times I see it are like old Southern white dudes like Saban and Kirby Smart. Like everybody else, is jumping around or maybe going pro. Sharon Moore, he's 35. I don't think he's going to stay at Michigan for 50 years if he's the hire. I think he'd challenge himself to the next level. So I just don't want people to underestimate what he did. And just by saying you want consistency to me sort of indicates that, there is some indication of bitterness that, you're not getting from him what you kind of expected. I mean, he was a Michigan man. He was hired for this purpose. I don't remember his quotes about how long he would be here. I think you're right. There was always a sense that it wouldn't be that long, but I think he's a legendary coach, and I want him to get his due. But I wouldn't be thrilled either. But it looks like they're going to be in good hands.
Real quick, another reason why he's leaving. He did not and has not had the backing of the athletic director, Ward Manuel. rumors, and you know how rumors go, but there was a guy named Singleton who worked in the athletic department who's hand in hand with Ward Manuel. Rumors are he's the one that leaked all the Stallions information. And Ward Manuel kept saying that there was a contract on the table. Jim just hadn't signed it. That was not true. There has never been a contract on the table. Ward Manuel is not a fan of Jim Harbaugh, has never been a fan of Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh doesn't like Ward Manuel. So it was a relationship that either one went or the other went. And I think the financial opportunity presented a real easy decision for Harbaugh. And for me, the next best thing for the University of Michigan athletic department is to clean house, top to bottom. Ward Manuel, Juwan Howard, they'd had issues with a player that played for the basketball team that took the coach's wife's car and crashed it. There's a current player on the team that is not allowed to travel with the team. He can only play home games. So the athletic department's in shambles, and it starts with Ward Manuel, and that's got to be the change. So until that happens, it could be doom and gloom for Michigan. Who knows?
Could they force can they suffer penalties? You know, like Lane Kiffin came to USC in 2011. They got hit with sanctions from alleged incidents in 2005.
I think it's a done deal. I think everything is done with Harbaugh.
Yeah,
they wanted Harbaugh. They got what they wanted. Harbaugh's gone.
Yeah, I don't think they'll mess with Michigan whatsoever. But.
No.
All right, let's wrap that up and let's get on to our favorite segment. Let's make you guys some money.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
All right, real quick, we're not going to dive into NBA and college basketball quite yet on the Bet Your Nuts segment. We still got some NFC, AFC Championship games going on here this weekend. Let's dive into that. First off, Raj, let's start with you. KC at Baltimore. Over under 44.5. Baltimore is favored by 3.5. Now, I know you were one of the ones that also loved that stat of Mahomes when he's an underdog on the road. What do you think about this game?
I'm taking, as a Raider fan, it pains me, but I'm taking Kansas City. And depending on the weather, three things have worked for me this offseason, really. And I usually like props, but underdogs and the over are big ones. I'm not going to say how much I've lost, but I'm taking both dogs, and I'm taking the over in this game. Another thing for me has been receiving yardage, mainly by tight ends. I'm sad to see my man Otten go because he just made me a ton of money. Dalton Kincaid getting me a TD. We've got some amazing tight ends in this game, but their yardage is set a little high. But no, those are the things. But overall, I'll take 9-1-1 ATS Mahomes. And I think even though Andrews is back, a better coaching staff and defensive coordinator in Kansas City at Baltimore.
All right, I like it. Tom,
I think we're in for a classic on this one. Lamar's been special this year. He's focused really on his pocket presence and his ability to throw the football. And that was the big question mark with Lamar Jackson. You know, can he be a quarterback per se? And I think the answer is resoundingly yes. So when you take that and you mix in his ability to extend plays and just absolutely take off running, leading the team in rushing, although I did hear a stat that no team whose quarterback led them in rushing has ever made the Super Bowl. Maybe, throws a monkey wrench in this, but I think he's proven himself this year. I do think Kansas City coming in hot with their experience, but the factor in this game is going to come down to a defense. Baltimore is strong defensively, strong at linebacker. I think they're going to do just enough. This game's in Baltimore. I think that can kind of give them the edge here. So give me Baltimore and the over. I think this has potential to be a bit of a shootout. So, but 44 seems awfully low to me with two pretty much high profile, high efficient quarterbacks. So both who can run, both who can extend plays, both who have that security blanket at tight end with Isaiah Likely, who has led the team in receiving Baltimore ever since Andrews went down, and the aforementioned Travis Kelce. So I like Baltimore here in the over.
Expected to rain that day. Now, I'm not sure about the hours, but 44 with a 70% chance. We'll have to see when.
Yeah.
And that'll favor a ground and pound anytime. So
yeah.
I've got to go KC again. You give me this formula that has worked so well through the Patriots and having that tight end safety blanket and a great quarterback that can lift his receivers up, see the field well, and then you get that extra scramble with Mahomes. He's in playoff mode, and man, this dude just is hard to beat in January. It's. I agree, Tom. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's down within those points, but I like KC here with the plus points. I mean, I think they could win by 1 or 2 points here. And the over seems like a sucker bet. I'm going to stay away with weather and all that. I'm going to stay away from the over, but I do like KC. So we'll go there. All right. Back to you, Tom. Let's look at your lines in San Fran. Should be balmy 67 degrees. -7 San Fran. Over-unders 50.5.
Well, they are the consummate underdog. And it started with week 1 when Detroit went to Kansas City. A primetime game, Thursday night game. They were raising the banner, handing out the rings. So there isn't a more emotional type of crowd, a violent, hostile crowd, a situation for a team. That's it. They went in there. Everyone told them they didn't have a snowball's chance. They won. Fast forward to this week, all the so-called pundits said there's not a chance that Detroit can win. Maybe if Debo doesn't play. But I think if you ask every person on the Detroit Lions how you would rather have it, and I think they'd rather have it this way. When they're bet against is when they play their best. This team's very comfortable on the road. They have proven it. They went on the road again, beat Kansas City, beat Green Bay, although before Green Bay kind of took their step, but nonetheless beat them at Lambeau, which is not an easy task. So now you face the number 1 seed 49ers, who it's the sexy pick. They've got all the names, the glitz, the glamour. But they've got a quarterback that looked really suspicious last week, and he looked very vulnerable. But when it came down to make the right plays, he did, and they got the win. Albeit it was some Buffalo Bills-like play from the Packers in that fourth quarter that kind of shot themselves in the foot, but nonetheless, San Francisco comes out on top. Weather will not be a factor. This is going to be a ground and pound game. Christian McCaffrey versus Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think the Lions love it when they're bet against, when their backs are against it. This number is really high. I like the Lions to cover. I like the Lions to win. I think their momentum carries them. One Pride Nation will be represented in San Francisco. There will be a lot of Lions fans in the house. My Twitter feed has been filled with people that are getting ready to board planes that are heading out there. And as everyone has seen, road games have felt like home games for the Lions. Give me Detroit to win and the over. This is going to be a high-powered offensive game on both sides. I like the Lions here. I believe in momentum. I believe in fate. I was going to put a graphic up that showed the last time the Detroit Lions won the NFL championship. That's right, the NFL championship before the Super Bowl era was in 1957. And the last time the Detroit Lions won a road playoff game was in 1957 against who? You guessed it. The San Francisco 49ers, on pace, on their way to defeating, I want to say, the Cleveland Browns for the NFL championship, which ironically enough, Cleveland and Detroit dominated the 50s. But I think fate is at play here. Give me the Lions. Come on, give me the Lions. Give them.
Can the NFL get any more scripted than that right there? Let's go. Raj, come on. Who you got?
What seems like big underdogs perform in these types of games. And let's be honest, dude. San Francisco's kind of made of glass, you know. And Brandon Ayuk an hour ago said he expects Debo to play. Debo's an amazing player. In 2021, you know, he had 10 TDs, 1,000, 1,400 yards receiving, 400 yards, and like another 8 TDs rushing. But since then, he's not been the same guy. Ironically enough, that was the only season he completed. And the Niners are 8-9 all time without him, I believe. When he comes in, he always seems to get hurt and leave for a couple of plays. McCaffrey, a similar thing. And the Lions with their youth match up quite well. The issue for me is, well, let me just say, I think they're going to hang. I'm scared of the over, but if the Lions are going to hang, it's going to have to hit. And I can see a shootout, mainly because of Detroit's tempo and their secondary is their defense is not great, especially the secondary. Detroit's actually top 5 in the NFL against the run, which bodes well for them. But, you know, they're a young, fast team. And, you know, their strengths match up well with the Niners' strengths, you know, tight end with their linebackers, et cetera. But the difference for me is just going to be the overall 49er defense. That's just the second best in the NFL by a lot of metrics, very close to the Jets. And they were a top 10 team in tackling while Detroit was in the bottom 10. And you've got to tackle the San Francisco 49ers. They have 3 receivers. Juwan Jennings, Tennessee folks know, is, you know, every bit of 6'3", 215 pounds. Debo's 215. Kittle's a big man. Ayuk's 200. You got to tackle those dudes. And Purdy likes to get it out fast to those guys because they're not going to be burners. But that's my concern, is Detroit's ability to stay in front and wrap up what is a really big, well-coached, disciplined team. But in the end, I don't want to do it because I love Detroit. We all love Detroit. It's hard not to love Detroit. I wish they could wear the Honolulu Blues this weekend, but I'm going to take the Lions to cover. And I feel strong about that. Very strong. Probably the strongest of all of them. And but I'll take the Niners to win in a close game. But I'm scared of the over, but my own logic, I'll have to take it because Detroit's going to have to put up points.
All right. I like it. I'm not going to get so in depth on a breakdown analysis of the teams like Raj does. He covers all of our bases for us.
He's the brains of the operation.
The Lions are the new American team, America's team, however you want to say it. Just everyone's rooting for them. It's just such a good story. This is a year. Dan Campbell's such a likable guy. You just want to pull for that guy. You know, if you're a player, you'd want to play for a guy like that. That's how I felt about Brable for quite some time. So give me the Lions. I think they cover. I hope they win. I don't know if they can. It's going to be really, really close. I like Raj's point, I am a little worried about that secondary somewhat and their tackling aspect. So, but give me the Lions. And another sidebar, the Bills are the new Dallas Cowboys of the AFC. So you heard it here first. They will be in the same boat for quite some time until they get to McDermott. So that being said, let's get get over with. Final thoughts here, boys. Final words. Tom, we'll start with you. Final words.
Well, before I get into my final words, I just want to say prayers go out to Robbie and his father. They had to take him to the ER. He had a slip and fall over the snowstorm that you guys had there in Tennessee, and he had a broken wrist and a punctured lung. So we're thinking about you, buddy. We hope Dad's doing okay, and we'll definitely be checking in on you tomorrow, make sure everything's good. But my final words tonight are this city has been down in the dumps, doom and gloom as a sports fan base for many years, since probably the 2012 run from the Tigers that fell just a little bit short against San Francisco, ironically. But the last month in the state of Michigan has been one I will never forget. From the University of Michigan winning their first national championship, beating Alabama, beating Washington, and the run that the Lions are on. I mean, if hope isn't the biggest and loudest word for the city of Detroit, I don't know what is. And Dan Campbell nailed it when he said that, they represent Detroit and they embody Detroit. And he couldn't be more correct. And this city's proud of him. And I think the message is loud and clear outside of the state of Michigan that people are jumping on. And I love what's happening. It's exciting to be talking about Detroit Lion football at the end of January. That's unheard of, and it's only happened twice in my lifetime. I'll be 47 this year, so it's a starved fan base, and there isn't a more deserving fan base. I know I sound biased, but I really believe that, and it showed by the participation at Ford Field. So I'm proud of Dan Campbell. I'm proud of Brad Holmes, what he's been able to build. And I'm damn proud of Sheila Hemp Ford, who kind of is the architect for this whole thing. She is a Ford, and the big pushback for many years was the Fords have to sell the team. Well, it turned out it just had to be placed in the hands of the right Ford, and Sheila is it. She is her. She's built this culture from the front office down, and the results are showing. And boy, would it feel good to win Sunday night and head into Vegas as the NFC representatives in the Super Bowl. So go Lions. Looking forward to Sunday, and I'm looking forward to recapping that game come next week with you boys.
Rosh?
As I eat a Sour Patch Kid that I stole from my kid to stay away. I just wanted to touch more on what we talked about earlier about finding gems, talent evaluation, and talent development, which is coaching. I hate all the metrics at the draft and how dudes suddenly didn't do shit during the season, but they jump 14 feet and they're picked and they turn into nothing. And if you look at these teams, these gems, we talked about the Lions and all the success they've found. We talked about the Rams, who had one down year. I thought they were screwed for like 10 years after what they went for, but they found Nakua and Kyron Williams in the 5th round. Researching more, the 49ers, they're just chock full of them. Hufanga, all-pro USC 5th. Diamador Lenore, the DB from Oregon, 5th. George Kittle, 5th. Juwan Jennings, a starter, 7th. Elijah Mitchell, 7th. And of course, I think it was 6th. Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, was the last pick in the freaking 7th round. Side note, back to the Chiefs and how they have 11 starters in the last 6 years. Isaiah Pacheco was taken 10 picks ahead of Brock Purdy in the 7th round that year. So you have two of the most valuable players in the league taken in that, and there's no mistake. It's not a coincidence why these are the teams that are in the playoffs. When you look at the Ravens, Isaiah Likely was a 4th round pick.
Was he an XFL guy too?
I believe so. Yes, you're absolutely right. They just haven't missed, on their first round picks, which are rare. Queen Dobbins, if he ever plays, Matt Buike, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, another team that built a Harbaugh, obviously from the trenches, and they play that power running football. It doesn't matter who you put back there behind him. Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, what's his name? It just got hurt. Keaton Mitchell. They've all been productive. And these are products of organizations that draft well and develop well. And there is, again, no coincidence whatsoever why these 4 teams remain.
Well said. I'm going to piggyback on that just a little bit. To your point, it shows the importance of having an identity as a program and a culture, right? Like you have to know what you're looking for, what to evaluate to fit into your system. Because let's be honest, and we've seen this time and time again, there are several super athletic, super talented kids that come through the NFL that are not in the right system, that does not exploit their strengths. And they end up a journeyman or out of the NFL in 2 or 3 years, and they're playing in the XFL or whatever. So there's a lot of misevaluation there, but it's also systematic. But that's, again, to my point, the importance of having an identity as a team and as a program and everyone being on board. So that allows you to get those 7th round picks and move forward with that evaluation. That being said, again, Robbie, thoughts and prayers to you for sure and your family. Flossie is a tough and stubborn dude. He will be just fine, I'm sure. Again, if you need anything from me, like I texted you earlier, I'm nearby, so I can swing by and do whatever you guys need. So
you've known him his whole life, right? Like your whole life, I've met him 5 times, and he is a legend.
Yeah, I've known Flossie since I was like 4 years old, dude. So yeah.
Flossie, dude, he is awesome.
He's the best. He was like my second dad growing up, for sure. Yeah, great show, guys. Don't forget, tune in next week. We'll have some recaps of everything that's gone down in the playoffs, and hopefully a happy Tom, and everybody else is going to be rich because we just gave you the key to make some money. Until next time, tune in, boys.
Shit burgers to the Niners.
Go Lions!
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation. Cheers.